spokesperson. So when Obi put this out yesterday, he was the first person to respond. Probably he will go on the media too. So his words on Twitter, so with due respect, right? These measurements are faulty. He went on to actually blame Neo that, but I'm coming to that. He said, extremely skilled. For those who manipulate these figures, have no metrics to measure the informal sector in Nigeria. You need to stop this, especially at international forums. You hold to place the burden on them and there. You know, there are some mofos in Nigeria who have actually created this, you know, they've created this sort of like an excuse, all right, to defend the ruiners of Nigeria. So many, you know, these are Nigerians that will tell you that Nigeria is such a very rich country. Now the Oyinbos don't want Nigeria to grow. You know that theory, right? So the Oyinbos, I mean, they can be kind of like right and wrong, sure you get, but right in the sense that when the criminals in Nigeria loot their people, some of them print money with nothing to back it, or because they were kind of able to obtain forex that they would take to these foreign countries, Western countries. Their loot are being deposited in this country. So the same Western countries that cause Africa poor, is, you know, they are collaborating with these criminals from Nigeria. I'm using Nigeria now. So yeah, you may be right when you say, oh, doing that automatically, we all know, right, contributes hugely, right, to the underdevelopment of Africa, the corruption of your leaders, and then the collaboration of the enablers, the West, right? So, but can we also blame the West for the reasons why we are unable to take down these rogues? A lot of people believe, a lot of people, I mean, some of these guys have said, the reason why your criminal leaders, which somehow you agree they are criminals, that you are afraid of, that you can't really stand up to them. However, you see these colonial masters, yes, use that colonial master, they call them the neo-colonists, right? Now, so these colonial masters who have been exploiting the land, now they are not doing it without the blessing of the people that you are parading as criminals who put themselves first and maybe you last. So again, like I said, saying the truth, publicly available truth, is not demarketing your country. In fact, it is a call for help. But that help is not going to come from the people you want to blame. You get what I mean now? Yeah, he also felt like all these statistics, there are some of these educated mofos in Nigeria, right? That somehow are telling themselves, right, that if, for example, a statistic says Nigeria's poverty is currently at 70%. Unemployment rate is currently at 80%. These guys will come and tell you that because it was done by the Oyinbos, they always use this data in order to project you, right? To project you in a bad light. Okay? So then you're like, okay, if you are by any means want to be independent of them, so maybe you can indeed constitute a group that can conduct some of these statistics and verifiable stats, right? To dispute whatever they. So they are the ones that will tell you that because the way Nigeria is, right? You cannot have an accurate data of the people who are rich or poor, or the people who are hungry and those who are not. Do you get that lazy, lazy defense, right? Number one, if they say you are 70% poor, that is obvious. And all the factors to show to you how poor you are, you know, they are also obvious. But you disagree because you don't want to appear poor. Obi Kubana collected Obi Kubana spent over 20 billion around his birthday, and people are saying that people are poor. Oh, Ikeja Hotel declared profit. See, Ikeja Hotel declared 6 billion naira profit in 6 months, and yet people are saying people are poor. Did you not see the birthday of Ojora's daughter? Did you see the birthday of the Emir's son? Did you see the wedding of the so and so? Did you see the money? You know, say money in our water. So because of that, right? I don't believe people are poor. Do you know how many people who are selling wigs? Do you know how many people who are doing vendors online? Blah, 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 blah. Just to make you believe that they don't need to present you any empirical evidence, data to say, this is the data. Because they don't. Nigeria is a place where people will tell you that we are uncountable, or money, a certain money is uncountable. Something is is so in that regard, you have them. So number one, live in that bubble, denying the obvious without presenting any alternative facts. They are there in that country. They will tell you, you know, the gang of the richest, there are richest men in Aba who are richer than Elon Musk, but they just don't make noise. That category of Nigerians, you get that? And you can never, in some places, you can never change their mind. So when Sowunmi was like, no, let us blame them. Listen to this other part, or read this other part. Say, crazy neoliberal policy and its deep state manipulations. They are put undue pressure on Africa, undue pressure on Africa, right? So when you say undue pressure, so you are being so dishonest. Your criminal leaders, they are partners in the rip-off of Africa. What is this guy's name? The guy, the leader, I don't know if I should call him president though. Anyway, I'll just call him Captain Ibrahim Traore. The other guy from Mali, as well as the third guy from the Niger Republic. These were 3 countries that have been so exploited by France for decades, but it didn't do it alone. They had those in power who are their puppets, whose reward for allowing that exploitation was for them to have their palaces built for them in France, in Paris, and all those places for decades. Then these guys came and said, well, enough. They kicked out France. They kicked out France and French companies from their country, from exploiting their country. They got sanctioned. Guess what? There is another puppet, a druggie from Nigeria, who was willing to welcome France. He didn't just show interest. He was willing to go to war for France against the Niger Republic. Remember that. He was willing. When that didn't work, he traveled to France to go and sign what he called a rare mineral deal. Rare mineral deal with France. So France now have the right to explore and exploit these rare minerals in Nigeria. So tomorrow you are going to possibly just blame France, like they do now. Like some of you probably still so convinced that it will be so difficult to make you see the collaboration of these rogues, that if those who represent you, if those who lead you, if they are not willing criminals, right, the West will never stop your development, ever. So right now, you've been reading a lot about Burkina Faso. You've been reading about Niger, about Mali. They are all facing serious economic sanctions. But within that, right, they believe that no matter what they currently throw at them, it will never be as worse as what they have endured for decades. So it's like rebuilding, while the chain of slavery that those who are leading Nigeria or those in charge of Nigeria are holding, they are not willing to drop it. So that's the point. It is not as if, it's not as if like, 10 million of you takes over all the major cities in Nigeria, shuts it down. The rest of the world is watching. And then suddenly, America will now bring in their aircraft, fighter jets. France will bring, everybody will now bring and begin to shoot you in your country. It doesn't work that way. Nothing like that has happened. That you stood up against your criminal leaders, and then, the West now bring their. So you can give excuses as you want, because it is very convenient. Very convenient. Again, being politically correct. Let's blame them. Let's talk to them. Let's tell them. Let's tell them that, they are the ones who don't want us to grow. They don't want you to grow, but you are romancing with the people who are making that possible. But you can give excuses as much as you want. You can. It won't change anything. Gone are the days when some certain people controls the information medium and platforms, directs, sort of like controls the narratives. But that doesn't really work there anymore. No, it doesn't anymore. So you see, these days, right, people have the choice to be stupid or to be smart. There's always that choice now. I don't know. I didn't know that one. No. Well, it's by choice now. And that is why, right, the likes of Jews who are like blowing their code, blowing their art at the same time makes people like us laugh. Because it's part of the whole, kind of like shenanigans that makes up this open concentration camp. What it is, men who can be so honest enough and stand by that. So, still talking about Tinubu and those who are calling him out and planning to take over from him. So it is obvious that Peter Obi is going to contest 2027 election, no matter what anybody says. And also, for those who have been seeing it, Tinubu himself have started the zone campaign for 2027. If you have been to Lagos, if you have been to Lagos Airport, Abuja Airport, and then maybe Benin, Edo, right? You probably would have started seeing either buses, posters, billboards, and all of that with, Tinubu and his wife holding themselves, telling you about 2027 and all that. And for Peter Obi himself, people believe that Peter Obi has been campaigning for 2027 from the second day that the Tinubu's judiciary confirmed him. Some said no, it was actually from the second day that Mahmoud Yakubu announced that Tinubu, whichever one, is never left the space, is never left the public, glare since the time he came out to say he wants to be your president, right? So here is what some analysts, I'll use analysts now because I don't even know what to qualify them as, okay? So they believe that with the demise of PDP, with the people who are currently, they call them stakeholders, governors, who are now jumping ship, and others who are going to stay within to sabotage any efforts to try to challenge Tinubu. So there is a kind of like a belief system where they say PDP, this one said PDP should openly approach Obi, like go to him and say, you know what, come. Let us push you. I mean, come and run on the platform of this party. It's funny, right? Understanding the whole circumstances that surrounds the current state of that PDP. And maybe others too. I want you to hear this. He also said that El Rufaya, I remember the time that El Rufaya said he was decamping to SDP and they were going to start a coalition stock, this and that. At the time, and I'm like, I think I have an idea where this is headed. The whole thing, this was my theory, right? It's still my theory, by the way, right? So the whole thing was the only person that seems to have genuine grassroots kind of support with no money attached in the southern part of Nigeria, as at today, is the most populous man. Yeah, and he is a Peter Obi. No matter how you feel about it, doesn't matter. The most sort of like despised man. In fact, a couple in the southern part of Nigeria. I'm not from northern Nigeria, but I can imagine what it is with the development we have been seeing lately from them, their youth, their religious leaders, their political leaders, and the rest. But the most despised person right now in the southern part of Nigeria is Tinubu. But don't get me wrong, go. Is the most despised doesn't mean that there are no people who are willing, because of what it is, right, to get paid and tell you is the most loved man. Well, we are talking about somebody who doesn't have to pay anybody, who doesn't have to actually like promise anybody anything before they will tell you they'll follow him. That's the guy. The only person that is like Peter Obi, in my own opinion, is Bokwari, and it is in the northern Nigeria. Just that kind of court following. But the difference is that Obi himself is not like a fanatic or extremist, whereby his followers are always going to say, if he doesn't get what he wants, they will burn everywhere down. That's the difference. Seriously. That's why it's so funny when some of you losers were calling disobedient, they're calling them violent and fascist. Bokwari's people, Bokwari's supporters in northern Nigeria, right? They killed 17 people, 15 of them, right? They were coppers in a single compound. They killed over 800 people. 800. Go and read about it. Because of 2011 elections. Because to them, how could an infidel, Jonathan, defeat their prophet? How is that possible? Prophet Bokwari. So they just went berserk. That was how violent they are. At a point, even Bokwari himself had to tell his followers that, you see, that 2011 election, if they rig it, monkey and baboons, dogs and baboons will be soaked in blood. That was how violent they are. You saw those ones with Tinubu. Those ones are like touts. Here you get now, guns and bottles. You get that? And you've seen that, right? If the obedient should have, let's say 50%, because I want it to be like half, 50% of what those who are the Ronokus, as well as the Buhari idiots, if they should have 50% of that, seriously, you would have probably witnessed a real revolution in that place, but they don't. The only power they have kind of like exercised is their power over the social media, which nobody is going to defeat. The day that Peter Obi says, hey, again, like joke, like 4 people tweeting in a room, then they will drive them again, millions of them, right? Just like that. And don't kind of like downplay that. Don't make that sound like it's nothing. A lot of you suffer from Stockholm syndrome, enough that you have actually forgotten how shook the entire system was in that dear charade year 2023. How shook the entire system was, how shocking it was for a lot of them. That how did they pull it off? It must never happen again. Here you go. So it is, and maybe this is why somebody feels like Obi can save the PDP. So in my own opinion, like I said, right, when El Rufai said he was going to start a coalition, this or that, I said Obi was the target. Yeah. Because come to think of it, Atiku has nothing right now to bring onto the table. There is no real kind of like Atiku's supporters. They are cash and carry people. You get that, SPV boys. If you don't pay them, they will switch side. Just like that. The state governors who are supposed to be on his side as their presidential candidate, they are all daggered down right now. Not even those ones from northern Nigeria are on his side. No, none. So what is he bringing onto the table? What is he bringing to the table? What is El-Rufai bringing to the table? But this guy said PDP should call Obi. So the chance that El-Rufai and Tinubu are fighting, right? From what some of us kind of have gathered is that is like zero. There's no evidence that truly Tinubu and El-Rufai, right? Like they have actually parted ways. Now, this may be a conspiracy kind of a theory, but it will make sense eventually. Because the point is, the only person who did, I mean, you know, there's nobody living or dead, right, in Nigeria